just started firing.
In what direction?
In front of me.
What was in front of you?
My parents.
They had it all: fame, fortune, and adoring fans. But behind the scenes, secrets wept and scandals exploded. Now, the same stars who graced red carpets are pacing cold prison cells. From luxurious mansions to locked-up misery, these 50 Hollywood elites are living a plot twist no one saw coming. Let's unravel it. Number 1, Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein used to be the guy in Hollywood, producing movies like Pulp Fiction, but behind all that, he was straight up abusing his power. He would corner women, mostly aspiring actresses, and force them into situations they couldn't say no to without risking their careers.
But he targeted an awful lot. And like a super predator, with night vision goggles on, he saw what he needed to see, and he did what he needed to do. His whole world was set up to rape, to consume, to eat people's lives. He's a dastardly human.
For decades, this was just an open secret, but in 2017, it finally blew up when women started speaking out.
I feel incredibly angry that Harvey harmed so many women and that so many people supported his behavior.
Investigations followed, and by 2020, Harvey got slapped with a 23-year prison sentence for rape and sexual assault. Now he is rotting away in jail and won't see the light of day until at least 2043.
The only way someone like Harvey Weinstein gets away with what he did for so long to so many people is because there are people facilitating it around him. It's not just people looking the other way, it's people making it happen.
Number 2, R. Kelly. Remember Ignition remix? Yeah, R. Kelly was the guy, but turns out he was also running a disgusting operation behind the scenes. He groomed and abused young girls for years, trapping them in his twisted world. People talked about it for ages, but nothing stuck until the Surviving R. Kelly docuseries came out in 2019. After that, the evidence poured in. By 2022, he got convicted of trafficking and making sexual abuse material. Now he is stuck in jail for 31 years, and honestly, he deserves every second. He'll be locked up until 2053. No more hits, just bars.
Didn't do this stuff. This is not me. I'm fighting for my life.
Number 3, Josh Duggar. Josh Duggar, the dude from 19 Kids and Counting, had everyone fooled with his perfect family act. But in 2021, they caught him downloading child sexual abuse images on his work computer. The files were absolutely sickening. Turns out, he had been hiding behind a squeaky clean image for years. Investigators traced it back to his shady internet activity, and he couldn't make his way out of it. They gave him 12 years and 7 months, and he'll be locked up until 2034, paying for his disgusting crimes.
The Josh Duggar child pornography case is officially closed. On Wednesday, Josh was sentenced to 151 months in prison, and that's nearly 13 years behind bars.
Number 4, Suge Knight. Suge Knight was the big boss of Death Row Records. Think Tupac, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre. But Suge always had a temper. In 2015, he got into a fight on the set of Straight Outta Compton and ran over 2 guys with his truck, killing one of them. He claimed it was in self-defense, but the video told a different story. In 2018, he took a plea deal and got hit with 28 years for voluntary manslaughter. Now, instead of running the rap game, Suge's stuck in prison until 2046.
Developing news now, former rap mogul Suge Knight is headed to prison for voluntary manslaughter. He ran down a man in the parking lot of a Compton burger stand about 3 years ago, and today he found out what his punishment's going to be. CBS 2's Cara Finstrom is there. Cara.
Number 5, Ryan Grantham. Ryan Grantham, the kid from Riverdale and Diary of a Wimpy Kid, went off the deep end. In 2020, he killed his own mom. Ryan shot her in the back of the head while she was playing the piano. Why? He claimed he didn't want her to see the mess he had become. After that, he packed his car with weapons and wrote in his journal about wanting to hurt others, even the Canadian Prime Minister. Thankfully, he turned himself in. Now he is in prison for life with a chance of parole after 14 years.
A former BC actor who shot and killed his own mother has been sentenced to life in prison. And as CTV's Angela Jung shows us, after he murdered his mom, he also planned on killing the Prime Minister and wasn't going to stop there.
Number 6, Todd Chrisley. Todd Chrisley, the flashy real estate mogul from Chrisley Knows Best, lived like a king. Huge mansions, designer everything, the whole 9 yards. But all that luxury was a total fraud. Turns out Todd was lying to banks to get millions in loans and dodging taxes while living it up. In 2022, it all came crashing down when he and his wife got busted for bank and wire fraud, conspiracy, and tax evasion. Todd got hit with 12 years in prison, so he is not going anywhere until at least 2034.
Judge is sending reality television star Todd Chrisley to prison for 12 years, and his wife Julie got 7 years. So the couple from Chrisley Knows Best were found guilty of fraud and tax crimes in June. Investigators say they used more than $30 million in fraudulent loans to live in luxury while flaunting it on television.
Number 7, Julie Chrisley. Julie Chrisley, Todd's wife and co-star, was right there with him in their scheme. She helped forge documents and hide money to keep their over-the-top lifestyle going. They acted like the perfect Southern family on TV, but behind the scenes, it was all absolute chaos. When the feds came knocking in 2022, Julie got convicted alongside Todd. She's now serving 7 years for her part in the fraud, and she'll be locked up until at least 2029. No more lavish dinners or shopping sprees for her. Just prison food and a hard reality check.
Fox 5 News at noon. Happening now, a federal judge upheld former reality star Julie Chrisley's 84-month sentence just moments ago. She is charged with bank fraud and tax evasion.
Number 8, Jen Shah. The drama queen from The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Jen Shah didn't just love the spotlight, she loved scamming people too. For years, she ran a telemarketing scheme that targeted elderly folks, conning them out of their savings. She played innocent for a while, but in 2023, she finally pled guilty. The judge gave her 6.5 years in prison. She'll be stuck in there until at least 2029. Jen went from designer outfits and reality TV feuds to wearing a prison uniform, and let's just say that's not the glow-up she was hoping for.
Yeah, the sentence for reality star Jen Shah, 6.5 years behind bars. The reality star from the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City is heading to prison after pleading guilty to her involvement with a telemarketing scheme.
Tired of expensive, low-effort script writers for your YouTube channel? Autoscriptor.ai is the ultimate solution. Say goodbye to low-quality, poorly retention amateur scripts that fail to generate thousands of views for your channel. At a fraction of the cost, Autoscriptor.ai helps your videos go viral. In just 3 steps, Autoscriptor.ai creates a polished script tailored to your needs. Just input your title concept, select your tone and style. The intuitive interface makes editing and refining effortless, fast, smart, and trusted by hundreds of satisfied users who have already discovered the amazing tool. Start your free trial today and watch Autoscriptor.ai transform your YouTube channel. Just click the link in the video description below now.
Number 9, William Hayden. Known as the gun-loving dad from Sons of Guns, William Hayden turned out to be the ugly monster. In 2014, he was accused of sexually abusing minors, and the details were horrifying. One of his own daughters came forward, along with other victims, revealing years of abuse. By 2017, Hayden was convicted of aggravated and forcible rape. He got 2 life sentences plus 40 years, so he's never getting out. Well deserved.
Emotional and at times graphic testimony from witnesses took center stage today at the trial for reality TV star. Well, Hayden is accused of several rape charges.
Number 10, Danny Masterson. Danny Masterson, the guy who played Hyde on That 70s Show, was living the Hollywood dream until it all fell apart. In 2023, he was convicted of raping 2 women in the early 2000s. Both women were part of the Church of Scientology, which allegedly tried to cover it all up.
Also tonight, a judge in Los Angeles sentenced actor Danny Masterson to 30 years to life in prison after the star of That 70s Show was convicted of raping 2 women decades ago.
The court didn't buy it, though. Danny was sentenced to 30 years to life, meaning he could be behind bars until he's an old man. His co-stars and fans were stunned, but justice finally caught up with him. Number 11, Sean Diddy Combs. Once at the top of the music and fashion world, Diddy now finds himself at the center of a chilling scandal. Arrested in September 2024, he is accused of running a sex trafficking ring and being involved in racketeering. The charges claim he exploited women and even underage victims under the guise of his glamorous lifestyle.
Court documents reveal the charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Prosecutors say he abused women for more than a decade and presided over an empire of sex crimes.
For now, he is in jail awaiting trial, and if convicted, his fall from grace could end in decades behind bars. Number 12, Justin Heath Smith. This one is as disturbing as it gets. In June 2024, Justin, whose professional name is Austin Wolf, known for his career in adult entertainment, was arrested after authorities found evidence of him possessing and distributing child pornography.
We're learning this morning that the former head of Southfield School in Shreveport has been arrested on child pornography charges. Justin Smith, who you see on your screen, has served as the head of St. Anne's Episcopal School in Middletown, Delaware since July of last year.
The details are horrifying, and investigators say the case is ironclad. He has been locked up since the arrest and is waiting to face the court. For someone who had a strong following in his industry, this scandal has left his reputation in ruins. If convicted, he is looking at years, possibly decades of prison time for crimes that shocked everyone who knew his name. Number 13, Kris Wu. Kris Wu's career was the definition of international stardom until it all came crashing down. In 2022, Kris was sentenced to 13 years for sexually assaulting multiple women, including underage victims. It all started when one brave woman exposed him, and the investigation revealed a pattern of abuse. Once one of China's biggest pop stars, he is now serving time in a Chinese prison. His downfall sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry, proving that no level of fame can protect someone from justice.
A Beijing court sentenced Canadian singer Kris Wu to 13 years in jail on Friday for crimes including rape. A former member of K-pop group EXO, the superstar was born in China and returned there in 2014 to pursue a lucrative solo career.
Number 14, Baca. What happens when the guy responsible for enforcing the law decides he is above it all? Well, that's the story of Baca, the former LA County Sheriff. Back in 2020, he was convicted of obstructing an FBI investigation into abuse happening right under his watch in LA jails.
First, we want to tell you that, as you mentioned, Baca convicted on 3 federal charges. We have a graphic for you of those charges. They are obstruction of justice, conspiracy to obstruct justice, and making false statements or lying.
Instead of cooperating, Baca tried to cover up the mess, and it landed him in prison for 3 years.
I want to also say that I appreciate the jury system. However, I disagree with this particular verdict.
For someone who once had so much power, his fall was quick and brutal. Now, he is just another inmate living out the consequences of his own bad choices. Number 15, Jussie Smollett. Jussie Smollett had everyone talking when he claimed to be the victim of a hate crime in 2019. But you know what? It was all fake.
January 2019.
Jussie claimed he was the victim of a hate crime, but cops later uncovered evidence allegedly indicating the actor paid 2 extras who worked on his show Empire to stage the attack. He was later convicted of 5 felonies and sentenced to 150 days in jail.
He staged the entire thing, hiring 2 guys to attack him and make it all look like a racist and homophobic assault. In 2022, the truth came out, and Smollett was sentenced to 150 days in jail for lying to the cops. While his time behind bars was short, his career and reputation took a hit that might never recover. What started as a bid for sympathy turned into one of Hollywood's biggest scandals. Number 16, Phil Spector. Phil Spector, the legendary music producer behind hits like Be My Baby, had a dark side that shocked everyone. In 2003, actress Lana Clarkson was found dead in his mansion, shot in the mouth. Spector claimed it was an accident, but evidence and witnesses told a different story. After years of legal battles, he was convicted in 2009 and sentenced to 19 years to life for second-degree murder.
And Phil Spector was a great artist who just became a wacko, and in the process of being a wacko, killed a woman.
Spector spent his final years in prison before dying in 2021. From revolutionizing music to a life behind bars, his story is a haunting reminder of how far someone can fall. Number 17, Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a wealthy financier with connections to the world's elite, but behind the scenes, he was running a massive sex trafficking ring and preying on minors. Arrested in July of 2019, his crimes had been whispered about for years, but it wasn't until brave survivors spoke out that he was taken down.
We have been left in the dark for so long with no answers to what is going on and why things played out the way that they did.
Epstein was held in federal custody, awaiting trial, when he died by suicide in August of 2019. His death sparked endless conspiracy theories, especially since so many powerful people were tied to him. Epstein's crimes exposed the darkest corners of wealth and influence, and his legacy is nothing but a disgrace. Number 18, Aaron Hernandez. Aaron Hernandez had it all: a massive NFL career with the New England Patriots and millions of fans. But in 2013, the body of Odin Lloyd, his friend, was found near Hernandez's home. Evidence linked him to the crime, and in 2015, he was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole. While in prison, Hernandez struggled with his mental health and died by suicide in 2017. Later, it was revealed that he had severe CTE, which is basically a brain damage from football, which might explain his violent behavior. His story is one of talent wasted and tragedy on every level. Number 19, Whitey Bulger. Whitey Bulger wasn't a Hollywood star, but his story reads like a mob movie. As a notorious Boston crime boss, he committed murders, ran rackets, and eluded the FBI for 16 years before being caught in 2011.
Bulger and Catherine Gregg went by the aliases Charlie and Carol Gasco until the FBI got a tip. Agent Scott Gargariola set up a ruse with their landlord, Josh Bond, and it ended one of the most embarrassing episodes in the Bureau's history.
In 2013, he was sentenced to 2 life terms plus 5 years for his crimes. Prison wasn't the end of his story, though. In 2018, shortly after being transferred to a new facility, Bulger was murdered by fellow inmates. His life of crime caught up with him in a brutal way, closing the chapter on one of America's most infamous gangsters. Number 20, James Brown. James Brown, the godfather of soul, had a voice like no other, but his life, well, it was a mess off stage. Over the years, he racked up charges for drug possession, domestic violence, and even leading cops on a high-speed chase.
James can be very cruel to his women, very cruel. You know, not just to one, to all.
He was in and out of jail multiple times, but his health took a turn for the worse. In 2006, Brown died of a heart failure while serving a sentence. Despite his troubled personal life, his music left a lasting legacy. But let's be real, his final years were a sad end for someone who once ruled the stage. Number 21, John Belushi. John Belushi, the comedy legend from Saturday Night Live or SNL and the Blues Brothers, had a reputation for partying hard. His wild lifestyle caught up with him in 1982 when he was arrested on drug-related charges. While incarcerated, Belushi overdosed on a mix of heroin and cocaine, tragically passing away at just 33 years old. His death shook Hollywood, showing how drugs can destroy even the brightest stars. Belushi's career was cut short, and his legacy became a cautionary tale about the dangers of fame and addiction. Number 22, Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay Lohan was once the golden girl of Hollywood, starring in hits like Mean Girls and The Parent Trap.
Mom, why are you being so mean? I want these.
No.
But in 2010, her partying and DUIs had landed her in big trouble. Lindsay violated her probation and was sentenced to 90 days in jail.
Okay, I went to detention, but that was only because Stacey Hinkhouse kept hitting me on the head with a volleyball.
Thanks to overcrowding, she only served 14 days behind bars, but it was a wake-up call for her struggling career. Lindsay's time in jail became a media circus, and while she has stayed out of serious trouble since, her story remains a reminder of how fame can spiral out of control. Number 23, Wesley Snipes. The action star best known for Blade, Wesley Snipes wasn't just fighting vampires, he was also dodging the IRS. In 2010, he was convicted of failing to file his taxes for 3 years, owing millions in unpaid taxes. The court sentenced him to nearly 3 years in federal prison. Snipes tried to argue that he didn't understand the tax laws, but the judge wasn't buying it. After serving his time, he returned to acting, but his career never fully bounced back. Number 24, Anand Jon Alexander. Anand Jon Alexander, a once famous fashion designer, was at the top of the industry, dressing A-list celebrities. But in 2008, his world came crashing down when multiple women accused him of sexual assault. The investigation uncovered a disturbing pattern of predatory behavior, with many of his victims being aspiring models. He was convicted of several counts of rape and sexual assault and sentenced to 59 years to life in prison. His fall from grace was massive, going from fashion runways to a life behind bars.
Up-and-coming fashion designer was sentenced to 59 years in prison for rape and other felony counts. He's currently here at Donovan State Prison.
Number 25, Corey Miller. Corey Miller, better known as C-Murder, was once a rising star in the rap world and the younger brother of hip-hop mogul Master P. But in 2002, everything changed. During a nightclub brawl in Louisiana, 16-year-old Steve Thomas was shot and killed, and witnesses pointed the finger at C-Murder. The trial was messy. Witnesses later claimed they were pressured to testify against him, and some evidence was shaky.
Two key witnesses that identified New Orleans rapper Corey C-Murder Miller as the shooter in a 2002 nightclub killing in Harvey is now recanting his testimony.
Still, in 2009, he was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. He has been fighting for his freedom ever since, with celebrities like Kim Kardashian backing his case. But for now, he is stuck behind bars with little hope of release. Number 26, Joe Sun. Most people remember Joe Sun from his role as Random Task in Austin Powers, but there's nothing funny about his real-life crimes. In 2011, it came out that he was involved in a brutal 1990 kidnapping and torture case after DNA evidence linked him to the crime. He was sentenced to life in prison, but it didn't stop there. While behind bars, he murdered his cellmate in 2011, ensuring he would never ever see freedom again. Now, instead of bad guy roles in movies, he's a real-life villain serving life without parole. Number 27, Tex Watson. A former straight-A student turned cold-blooded killer, Tex Watson became one of Charles Manson's most infamous followers. In 1969, he led the Tate LaBianca murders, brutally killing actress Sharon Tate and several others. His name became synonymous with the Manson family's reign of terror. Arrested in 1971, he was sentenced to life in prison. Over the years, he has claimed to have found God and even became a prison minister. But no amount of religion is getting him out. Watson remains locked up, repeatedly denied parole with no real chance of ever walking free. Number 8. Sirhan Sirhan. The world changed on June 6, 1968, when Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated. And the man behind the trigger was Sirhan Sirhan. Fueled by political rage, he shot Kennedy at close range during a campaign event in Los Angeles.
Senator Robert F. Kennedy's assassin, Sirhan Sirhan, is once again denied parole by a board in California. The panel saying he still lacks insight into why he committed the crime. Sirhan shot and killed Senator Kennedy in Los Angeles at a hotel in 1968. Kennedy was only 42 years old.
Originally sentenced to death in 1969, his sentence was reduced to life imprisonment when California outlawed the death penalty. Now, in his 80s, Sirhan has been up for parole multiple times but always gets denied. He has spent over 5 decades behind bars, and chances are he will die there. Number 29, Lyle Menendez. The Menendez brothers were the ones who were blessed with everything: wealthy parents, a mansion in Beverly Hills, and an easy life. But in 1989, Lyle and his younger brother Eric gunned down their parents in their own home. They claimed years of abuse drove them to do it, but prosecutors saw it differently, arguing it was all for money.
My brother got there first, and we just burst through the doors, and I started firing.
I was just firing as I went into the room. I just started firing.
In what direction?
In front of me.
What was in front of you?
My parents.
After 2 high-profile trials, Lyle was convicted in 1996 and sentenced to life without parole. He spent nearly 30 years behind bars, still making headlines as one half of one of the most infamous murder cases in America. Number 30, Eric Menendez. Growing up in luxury wasn't enough for Eric Menendez. Alongside with his brother Lyle, he shot and killed his parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez, in 1989. Their trial became a media circus, with courtroom drama that kept the country glued to their TVs. While they insisted they acted out of fear from years of abuse, the jury saw premeditated murder. In 1996, Eric was sentenced to life without parole. Now, decades later, he and Lyle are serving time in the same prison, forever tied together by the crime that shocked the nation. Number 31, Elizabeth Holmes. Once hailed as the next Steve Jobs, Elizabeth Holmes convinced the world that her company, Theranos, had revolutionized blood testing. Investors poured in millions, believing her promise of a device that could detect diseases with just a drop of blood. But it was all a scam. The technology didn't work, and Holmes, she lied to keep the illusion alive. In 2023, after years of courtroom drama, she was sentenced to 11 years and 3 months for fraud.
A judge just sentenced Elizabeth Holmes to 11 years, 3 months in prison, plus another 3 years of supervised release, as well as a $400 fine.
Number 32, Heather Mack. A vacation to Bali turned into a murder plot when Heather Mack and her boyfriend decided to kill her mother, Sheila Von Wiesmack, in 2014. The reason will drive you crazy. She wanted access to the $1.5 million in a trust fund. And the murder itself was brutal. They stuffed her mother's body in a suitcase and left it in a hotel.
A sentence today of 26 years in prison. Heather Mack, the Oak Park woman who pleaded guilty to helping kill her own mother, then stuffing her body into a suitcase during a vacation in Bali in 2014. A brutal crime that rocked the nation.
Mack was arrested, served time in Indonesia, and then got deported back to the United States, where she faced even more charges. In January of 2024, she was sentenced to 26 years in prison. Now she's paying the price for a crime that was as heartless as it was senseless. Number 33, Ramon Abbas. Commonly known as Hush Puppy, Ramon flaunted his wealth on Instagram. Luxury cars, private jets, designer, everything. But behind the flashy lifestyle was a massive fraud empire. This Nigerian scammer was involved in cybercrime schemes that stole millions from people and businesses worldwide. The FBI caught up with him in 2020 in Dubai, and by 2022, he was sentenced to 11 years in prison for money laundering and fraud.
Dubai police have once again solved yet another case involving an international online scammer known as Raymond Abbas, but who goes by Hush Puppy on social media platforms.
Number 34, Mark Rogowski. In the 1980s, Mark Gator Rogowski was a skateboarding legend. He had sponsorships, magazine covers, and a career most skaters could only dream of. But in 1991, things took a horrifying turn. He raped and murdered Jessica Bernstein, a friend of his ex-girlfriend, in a fit of rage. After confessing, he was sentenced in 1992 to 31 years to life in prison. His name is now forever tied to a horrific crime rather than the sport that he once dominated.
This was Mark Rogowski at his murder trial in 1991. He was convicted of the rape and murder of Jessica Bergston, who was just 22 years old.
I wonder what I'll do.
Rogowski was famous in the skateboarding world.
Number 35, Jesse James Hollywood. The name sounds like a movie character, doesn't it? And in a way, it became one. Jesse James Hollywood was the real-life inspiration for the film Alpha Dog, based on his role in the 2000 kidnapping and murder of a 15-year-old named Nicholas Markowitz. Jesse James Hollywood orchestrated the crime over a drug debt owed by Nicholas's older brother. He fled the country but was eventually caught in Brazil in 2005. By 2009, he was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole.
A Santa Barbara judge has sentenced Jesse James Hollywood to life in prison without the possibility of parole after denying his request for a new trial. Hollywood was found guilty of first-degree murder in July. Prosecutors say he planned the kidnapping and killing of 15-year-old Nicholas Markowitz back in August of 2000.
Number 36, Oscar Pistorius. He was once an inspiration, the Blade Runner who made history as the first double amputee to complete in the Olympics. But in 2013, everything changed. Oscar Pistorius shot and killed his girlfriend, Riva Stenkamp, claiming he thought she was an intruder. The court didn't believe him. After years of appeals and legal back and forth, he was sentenced in 2017 to 13 years and 5 months for murder. Number 37, Jared Fogle. For years, Jared Fogle was the face of Subway, the guy who lost weight eating sandwiches and became a household name. But behind that wholesome image was a dark secret. In 2015, an investigation exposed that he was involved in child pornography and had inappropriate relationships with minors.
Ex-Subway spokesperson Jared Fogle will spend the next 15 years behind bars after pleading guilty to sex crimes.
The evidence was overwhelming. His own business partner even helped the FBI take him down. Jared was sentenced to 15 years and 8 months in prison. Number 38, Michael Jace. Michael Jace was best known for playing a cop in The Shield, but in real life, he became a killer. In 2014, during a heated argument, he shot his wife, April Jace, in front of their 2 children, just out of jealousy and rage. He tried to plead self-defense, but the evidence was clear. This was murder. In 2016, Jace was sentenced to 40 years to life. Once a familiar face on TV, Jace is now living out a sentence for harsher than any role he had ever played.
Well, Shield actor Michael Jace was sentenced today in downtown Los Angeles. A judge gave him 40 years to life in prison for killing his wife.
Number 39, Keith Raniere. Keith Raniere sold himself as a self-help guru, the mastermind behind XM-IVM organization. But behind the scenes, it was a full-blown cult, complete with branding, forced labor, and sex trafficking. Women were manipulated, brainwashed, and abused under his control. It all came crashing down in 2018 when survivors exposed the truth, leading to his arrest. By 2020, he was convicted on multiple charges, including sex trafficking and racketeering, and sentenced to 120 years in prison.
Raniere got 120 years, and as you said, that means he will serve life in prison. The 60-year-old was convicted of multiple crimes, including sex trafficking and racketeering.
Yep, 120 years. The so-called genius now spends his days in a cell, no longer able to control anyone but himself. Number 40, Ron Jeremy. For decades, Ron Jeremy was one of the most recognizable names in the adult film industry. But behind the scenes, countless women accused him of sexual assault. Over the years, more than 20 women came forward with allegations of rape and abuse, some dating back to the 1990s. Arrested in 2020, he was set to stand trial, but in 2023, he was declared mentally unfit due to severe dementia and was committed to a mental health facility instead of prison. Number 41, Amy Locane. Amy Locane was best known for Melrose Place, but her real-life drama was far worse than anything on screen. In 2010, she got behind the wheel drunk and caused a crash that killed 60-year-old Helene Seaman. The tragedy could have been avoided, but Locane had a history of reckless behavior. She was convicted of vehicular manslaughter, and after multiple resentencing, she was given an 8-year sentence in 2020.
Locane had this to say in court.
I made a mistake. I have done everything that I can do to not be the person who does what I did.
Number 42, Stephen Christopher Yaxley Lennon. British far-right activist, better known as Tommy Robinson, has made a career out of controversy, but in 2024, he found himself on the wrong side of the law again. This time, he was jailed for contempt of court after actions that jeopardized legal proceedings. It wasn't his first time behind bars, but this one, well, it got him a 9-month sentence. He has spent years stirring up trouble with his anti-immigration and nationalist views, but now he's spending his time locked up, unable to control the narrative. Whether this is just another chapter in his legal battles or the beginning of the end for him remains to be seen.
In other news today, the far-right activist Stephen Yaxley Lennon, also known as Tommy Robinson, has been jailed at Woolwich Crown Court for 18 months after admitting contempt of court.
Number 43, John War Machine Koppenhaver. John Koppenhaver, better known as War Machine, went from MMA fighter to convicted felon in one of the most brutal cases of domestic violence ever. In 2014, he brutally attacked his ex-girlfriend, adult film actress Christy Mack, leaving her with broken ribs, missing teeth, and severe injuries. He was on the run before getting caught and thrown in jail. In 2017, he was convicted of multiple charges, including sexual assault and attempted murder, and sentenced to life in prison. He won't be eligible for parole until 2053.
We have a breaking news update. War Machine was sentenced today to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 36 years. 13 Action News reporter Yasmin Hassan was there as the judge handed down the sentence.
Number 44, Danny Trejo. Before he became Hollywood's favorite tough guy, Danny Trejo was actually living that life for real. In the 1960s, he was in and out of prison for robbery, drug possession, and violent offenses.
No, you know what? But that's... I got out of prison and I just knew that if my life didn't change, I was going to spend the rest of my life in prison.
His rough upbringing led him down a dark path, but prison changed him. He got clean, turned his life around, and became an actor, known for his roles in Machete and Breaking Bad. Unlike others on this list, Trejo didn't let his past define him. He used it to inspire others. Now, instead of serving time, he's serving as a role model for redemption. Number 45, Mel Hall. Once an MLB player with a promising career, Mel Hall is now a convicted predator, serving 45 years in prison. In 2009, he was found guilty of sexually assaulting a 12-year-old girl he coached. The details of the case were horrifying. He groomed young girls under the guise of mentoring them, and his crimes spanned years. His charm and influence kept him from getting caught for a long time, but eventually justice caught up with him. With a sentence that keeps him behind bars until at least 2054, Hall won't be stepping onto a baseball field ever again. Number 46, Bill Cosby. For decades, Bill Cosby was America's dad, the comedian who made millions laugh on The Cosby Show.
Back in your head. If you let your brains fall out of your head, have you lost your mind?
But behind the wholesome image, he was a predator. Dozens of women accused him of drugging and assaulting them, and in 2018, he was finally convicted of sexually assaulting Andrea Constant in 2004.
80-year-old Bill Cosby was found guilty of drugging and sexually assaulting Temple University employee Andrea Constant. She left the courtroom beaming. In addition to Constant, 5 other women testified they were sexually assaulted by Cosby in past years.
He was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison, making one of the biggest falls from grace in the entertainment history. After serving nearly 3 years, Cosby was released in 2021 when his conviction was overturned due to a legal technicality. But his legacy? Well, it's destroyed completely. Number 47, Tim Allen. Before cracking jokes in Home Improvement and Toy Story, Tim Allen was trafficking drugs. In 1978, he got caught at an airport with over a pound of cocaine and faced serious time. To avoid a life sentence, he cooperated with authorities and snitched on his drug connections, cutting his sentence down to just over 2 years. He served from 1979 to 1981, and after getting out, he turned his life around, becoming one of Hollywood's biggest comedy stars. Unlike many on this list, Allen used prison as a wake-up call, proving that sometimes second chances pay off. Number 48, Joseph Allen Maldonado. Also known as Joe Exotic, he went from running a bizarre roadside zoo to becoming the star of Tiger King. And then, well, straight to prison. His wild antics, feuds, and questionable business practices were bad enough, but in 2020, he was convicted of trying to hire a hitman to kill his rival, Carol Baskin. On top of that, he was also nailed for animal abuse and violating wildlife laws. Originally sentenced to 22 years, he got a slight reduction in 2022, bringing it down to 21 years.
Joseph Maldonado, big difference, was sentenced to 22 years in prison. Now, a jury convicted him for a murder-for-hire plot and for illegally selling and killing tigers.
He won't be free until at least 2041, if he even makes it that long. Number 49, Roy Estrada. Roy Estrada, once a bassist for Frank Zappa and a founding member of Little Feat, had a dark secret. In 2012, he was convicted of child molestation again. This wasn't his first offense. He had already served time for similar crimes in the 1990s. The latest case involved a young girl, and this time, well, the court wasn't lenient. He was sentenced to 25 years in prison with no chance of parole. Now, he's spending the rest of his life locked up, known more for his horrific crimes than his career. Number 15, Taylor Trayvon McIntyre. Nicknamed Tay-K, Taylor blew up in 2017 with his viral hit The Race, a song about, well, running from the cops. But his lyrics weren't just for show. He was actually on the run after escaping house arrest for a murder case. Authorities caught up with him, though, and in 2019, he was convicted of murder and aggravated robbery.
Tay-K's trial began on July 16, 2019. He pleaded guilty to 2 counts of aggravated robbery by threats and not guilty to the capital murder charge.
The court sentenced him to 55 years behind bars. At just 19 years old, his rap career ended even before it really started. And there you have it, 50 Hollywood stars who went from the spotlight to a prison cell. Some were legends, some were rising stars, and some, well, they were just straight-up criminals the whole time. If you found this wild ride interesting, or just need more proof that Hollywood is basically one big true crime documentary, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Who shocked you the most? Who do you think should be on this list next? Let's talk about it.